we have this?
Good morning. We're about to begin the November 19th, 2025 regular meeting of the Harris Central Appraisal District's Board of Directors. Members of the public wishing to address the board should have completed the sign-in sheet at the back of the room. You will be called upon to speak in the order that you signed in. When you begin, please state your name. Mr. Chairman, you may call the meeting to order.
Thank you very much. Good morning. My name is Jim Robinson. I'm chairman of the HCAD Board of Directors, and I hereby call this November 19th, 2025 regular meeting of the board to order. The time is 9:32 a.m. We will begin with the pledge allegiance to the flag, and Martina, would you please do the honors for that?
Yes. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
We throw it up for board members too.
Okay.
All right, we'll do the roll call. Kathy Bluford Daniels, and Ms. Daniels is running late this morning, but she will be here. Tracy Jones,
Present.
Martina Lamont Dixon,
Present.
Erica McCrutcheon. Ms. McCrutcheon has a doctor's appointment, but she's indicated she will arrive by 10. Melissa Noriega,
Present.
Annette Ramirez,
Present.
Kyle Scott,
Present.
Mike Sullivan, and myself, Jim Robinson, present. We'll now move to the recognition of service awards and employees of the month. And I've asked Ms. Ramirez to join Mr. Altinger for these presentations.
Well, good morning. We're going to start off and we're going to recognize this year's graduates of HCAD's People Leaders course. We formerly called it the Effective Supervisory Skill Building. Now, shortly after I became chief appraiser, our executive team worked with me to enhance training and support we provide the next generation of district leadership. Since 2018, this fifth graduating class brings our total number trained to 120 people. This comprehensive course covers 16 major components common to all leadership positions in just under 6 months. It's about 30 plus hours of training. Participation is voluntary and requires significant effort from both the participants and our great team of instructors. Graduates, please stand when I call your name. First, Mr. Barry Primes. Just please stay standing too, and we'll applaud at the end. How does that sound? Chauncey Majors, David Vatuna, Diane McCarthy, Alyssa Villagran, Esmeralda Cottle, Giulio Riccio, Herman Bro, Carrie Sepp, Kelvin Lopez, Kiera David, Lydia Hernandez, Mark Case, Michael Gibson, Monique Watson, Nancy Alvarez, Ramon Smith, Raven Portis, Robbie Moore, Stacy Raines, Stephen Benavides, Tamara Lilly, Thomas Sanchez, Veronica Garcia, and Yesenia Lopez. Congratulations on completing this course. Congratulations on completing this course and investing in your career and in those you support and serve. Let's thank our facilitators who, with me, helped offer this guidance: Jason Cunningham, Adam Bogart, Brenda Budd, Glenn Reed, Claret Walker, Sally Vardy, and Byron Stanley. Thank you all. All right, we've only got 3 service award recipients this month who make up 55 years of experience, and we've got our 4 employees of the month also. Our first service award recipient joined us 15 years ago, native Houstonian, went to Waltrip High School, earned a bachelor's in English from the University of Houston. A friend introduced him to the insurance industry. He worked as a medical malpractice claims adjuster until third-party administrators were no longer required. He went to Plan A and became a teacher at Cy-Fair ISD, stayed 3 years and realized he wanted something different. His mom was visiting HCAD on the 3rd floor, had a pleasant experience, and she encouraged him to apply. We're glad she did. He began as an admin tech in human resources, now tech support specialist 3 in IT. He's married, he's got a 10-year-old adopted daughter. He enjoys camping, hanging out with his daughter and wife, and restoring the family heirloom, a 76 Thunderbird purchased in 1975. Andrew Obenhaus. It didn't say that she appreciated you. You enjoyed spending time with your daughter. See your wife too. I have to put that in there for you.
Thank you so much.
All right. All right, our second service award recipient joined us 20 years ago. Born in Camp Pendleton, California. Father was a Marine, so they moved around a bit. She went to Dumas High School, studied at West Texas A&M University, and before HCAD, she worked as a receptionist at a law firm, then as a deputy county clerk for 10 years. Her husband's job relocated to Houston. She saw HCAD while driving down 290, and her sister suggested that she applied. We're glad she listened to her sister. Began in the phone bank in INA, now an admin assistant in 2. In communications, she's married a whopping 48 years, 2 children, 4 grandchildren. She enjoys reading, time with family and friends, and volunteering at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. And everybody knows this lady, Charlie McGrindles. And how many times have you been Employee of the Month? Twice. Congratulations. All right, our final service award recipient was born in Houston, went to Sam Houston High School. She worked for Xerox for 10 years until the company relocated to Dallas. She saw HCAD as she was driving along 290, went on our website and applied. I hired her 20 years ago in INA when I was the director. She began as an operations support specialist there, and then, of course, she left me and worked her way to Admin Tech 3 in commercial. She's married to her actual husband, Rolando. For 41 years, they have 1 son. She enjoys live music, volunteering at animal shelters, and sadly, she is leaving me again for the second time in that this month she's retiring. Brenda Rodriguez, we're going to miss you. We got a little retirement party this afternoon, don't we? All right, now we're going to recognize our 4 employees of the month. Our first employee of the month, a native Houstonian, attended North Shore High School, got a bachelor's in communications and a minor in business from Lamar University in Beaumont. He worked various jobs such as Hertz Rental Car and Farmers Insurance in the Beaumont area, and his fiancée said she wouldn't live in Beaumont. Recipient packed up his bags and moved to Houston, found HCAD online and applied. This gentleman is unbelievable. He works as a testifying appraiser 3 and review appraisal. He's earned his CTA, which is a Certified Tax Administrator, from TAAO, which is the Texas Association of Assessing Officers. And he's acknowledged today as HCAD's first and only employee to achieve the MAI designation from the Appraisal Institute while working at HCAD. That is unbelievable. One of the most difficult and prestigious credentials in the appraisal profession, requires years of experience and rigorous education. It is recognized by courts of law, governmental agencies, financial institutions, and investors across the United States, and as a mark of excellence in property valuation and analysis. He also goes above and beyond some of the things he has done. He's a mentor and he's a role model in the division. He's married with one son, enjoys traveling, reading, and dad jokes, and he's got some good dad jokes, but we'll have to wait till after the board meeting. Davin Brantley, come on up. All right, stick around for a picture. Our second recipient has been with us only 6 months and is already the Employee of the Month. She's a native Houstonian, went to Klein Forest High School, worked as an underwriter for an insurance company, used HCAD's website to verify home ownership, and visited our career page and decided to apply. Works as a customer service specialist in INA, commended for her professionalism, camaraderie, and first-class customer service. Nomination states she's praised by property owners for her attentiveness. She provides solution-focused service and ensures every customer leaves satisfied. She's married 2 years, and they've been together 10. These are high school sweethearts. This lady has a beautiful smile, and she enjoys nature, movies, and painting. Julieta Martinez, come on up. All right. Our third Employee of the Month was born in Finland and grew up in Sweden. Moved to Texas as a teen, went to Kingwood Park High School, earned a BS in computer science from the University of Houston. Before HCAD, he worked for Amazon. His aunt, a former HCAD employee, referred him to the district, and we're glad that he listened. He's a software analyst, too, in IT, recognized for his innovation, professionalism, and first-class customer service. He's been influential in HCAD's Workday implementation and system migration projects. Proficient in research and in programming solutions, consistently displays the district's core values. In his spare time, he enjoys creating digital art, watching anime, and reading the Bible. Joshua Smith is not here. He's at a tech conference, and we've got Matt Maspero who's going to come up and take his picture. You're a lot better looking than Joshua.
I don't know about that.
Jose, we're going to need a little Photoshop in a little bit. All right, our final Employee of the Month was born in Wichita Falls, Texas. Went to Ryder High School there and moved to Houston after graduating. Attended the University of Houston where he got a BS in mechanical technology. Prior to HCAD, he worked as a programmer for a software engineering company. He found HCAD through the late Lynn Vo, a former HCAD appraiser. The recipient works as a project analyst 3 in commercial. He's cited for his dependability, professionalism, and exceptional efforts. He has taken on additional responsibilities following the untimely passing of HCAD's colleague, Gene Kotler. Recipient has been instrumental coordinating across groups and supporting hearings. He goes the extra mile, often working extra hours and after hours to learn and resolve complex tasks. He's been married for 9 years, enjoys music, puzzles, and playing sports. Peter Wu, come on up. Follow her, and we're going to get up there and take a picture. We'll Photoshop it.
All right. We've now reached the public comment portion of today's agenda, showing that we have one person signed up to speak. You'll have 3 minutes. If you would please keep track of the clock. Ms. Guerra will let you know when you have 30 seconds remaining. And our one speaker that signed up today is Alexi Swirsky. Ms. Swirsky. If you would, for the record, please state your name before you begin speaking.
My name is Alexi Swirsky. It appears that Harris County Appraisal District is violating the Texas Open Meetings Act. Notice of meetings and agendas should be provided to the public in a public place and on the HCAD website, which the most recent notice of a hearing I can find on the HCAD website is from July. Property tax paying citizens like myself are legally supposed to be kept informed of the time, date, and agenda of hearings. According to the Attorney General of Texas, Ken Paxton, quote, "At its core, the Texas Open Meetings Act requires government entities to keep official business accessible to the public. Public access to the proceedings and decision-making processes of government is essential for a properly functioning and free state," unquote. Please correct this oversight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Swirsky. Next on the agenda would be a committee report. I recognize the Finance Committee Chair Scott for his report.
So there are three things that I think are worth reporting out. If we look at agenda item 12, this is an expenditure item that came up after the Budget and Finance Committee meeting. This is not necessarily emergency, but the issue arose on the power distribution unit. Something had come up, and this is essential for the operation of our IT equipment here in the building. So it was asked if we could put it on this agenda item, and that'll be discussed when we get to it. The second item, we deal with a lot of IT stuff in terms of our budget. So the committee had asked that after the new year that HCAD could present to the board just a general overview of how all these pieces fit together and why they're important. And a third one, which will be for a broader board discussion, is it was brought up within the committee that we may need an operational and performance audit in addition to some of the other stuff we do, so that can be discussed at a later date.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Kyle. Ms. Daniels is en route, but she is not here yet, so we will get her report a little bit later in the program. But members, you have any questions for Chair Scott about his report? All right, hearing none, we will move on to the consent agenda. We have several items on. The first is item 8A, discussion and possible action to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of October 15th. Item B is discussion and possible action to authorize the chief appraiser to exercise the fourth-year renewal of a 6-year contract for property management services with Collier's Property Management Services, Houston, LLC. The cost of the services will be approximately $290,849, a 3% or $8,470 increase from 2025. Item 8C is discussion and possible action to authorize the chief appraiser to exercise the third year of a 6-year contract for janitorial services with Allenton Group, Inc. The cost for the services will be approximately $241,320, a 2.65% or $6,228 increase from 2025. Item D is discussion and possible action to review and approve the second-year renewal of a 3-year agreement for the cybersecurity management, managed detection and response services through a choice partners vendor, Converge Technology Solutions. The cost of the renewal is $132,225, same as last year. Item E, discussion and possible action for review and approval of a 1-year renewal option of the custom camera software maintenance and support contract with Manatron, Inc. under Harris Computer Systems, Harris ownership. This was formerly owned by Thomson Reuters. The cost of the renewal is $527,644, which is a 7% or $34,000 increase from last year. Item F, discussion and possible action to review and approve a 1-year renewal of a subscription to True Roll software for automating the process of exemption applications received on paper through Omnia Partners vendor SHI in the amount of $125,000. This is a 1.7% or $2,000 increase over last year. Item G, discussion and possible action to review and approve either a 3-year renewal in the total amount of $385,000 or a 1-year renewal in the amount of $147,000, same as last year, for the district's firewall support, including the subscription for all related devices and endpoint protection clients. This will be from DIR vendor Converge Technology Solutions. Item H, discussion and possible action to review and authorize the chief appraiser to renew a contract with sole source vendor TREP to provide structured loans, commercial real estate data, and market analytics services for a total cost of $236,437 over a 3-year period. Item I, discussion and possible action to authorize the chief appraiser to exercise the 3rd renewal option on contracts with core staff services and A1 personnel for temporary staffing services with an estimated cost of $400,000 for 2026, which is the same as 2025. Item J, receive the district's monthly financial reports. Item K, receive report on payments of bills, payroll, and transfers of funds between line items, discussion and possible action, if any, thereto. And that is the complete list. So do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
Yes,
All right, we have a motion from Director Noriega and Secretary Dixon. Seconds, any discussion?
I would like to actually amend the motion
Okay,
to accept the consent agenda items A through F and H through K as presented, and pulling item G.
all right, do we have a second for that?
Second.
All right, we have a second item, we'll pull item G. So you want to take that up then during the regular discussion?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. All right. We have a motion and a second then to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item G. Any further discussion? All right. We will call the roll. Director Daniels, Director Jones,
Yes.
Director Dixon,
Yes.
Director McCutcheon is not here yet, Director Noriega, Director Ramirez.
Aye.
Director Scott.
Aye.
Director Sullivan is absent. Jim Robinson also vote aye. Okay, this brings us to the action items.
For G.
I'm sorry?
I'll make a motion for item G.
Okay. All right, well, let's take it up during these action items for item G.
Oh, okay, okay.
And we'll begin with item G, which was
Okay.
moved from the consent agenda. And we have a motion already from Director Dixon. Is there a second for G?
Aye. Yeah.
Director Scott seconds. All right, discussion on that item.
Yeah, I was just pulling it because it's an or, like either we're going to do a 3-year renewal or a 1-year renewal. So we discussed it in Finance Committee, but I wanted to make sure the board knew that we have to make a decision on whether we're doing a 3-year contract or a 1-year contract. And I think the questions that came up during Finance Committee, the committee, and, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Scott, Chair Scott, I felt that, the sentiment was we were okay with the 3-year renewal.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so do we have a motion then? Is your motion for a 3-year renewal?
Yes, I would like to move that we move forward with item G with the 3-year renewal, for the district's firewall support, including the subscription for all related devices and endpoint protection clients from a DIR vendor, Converge Technology Solutions.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Right. Seconded by Director Scott. We'll just do a voice vote on that. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously.
Comment?
Discussion.
Yes.
And this may seem obvious, but this is going to save us money. So I just want to mention that we talked about whether being bound to something was, a problem or whether we wanted to go ahead and save the money. And we really felt very strongly that it was the wisest thing. So I just want to mention that.
Very good. Thank you. All right, we'll move on now to the action items. And item 9 is something that I had asked to put on. It's to discuss new IRS limitations on employee 457B retirement plans, consider addition of eligible Roth IRA options, and review and possibly amend existing agreements with the 3 457B plan providers. And let me give a little bit of elaboration, Roland, before I call on you. First of all, the public needs to understand that the district makes no contribution whatsoever to these 457B plans. These are completely voluntary on the part of the employees. If an employee chooses to participate, it's a wonderful thing to do because you're saving additional money for your retirement. And the Internal Revenue Code permits employees that participate to make contributions without paying income tax. The income tax is actually paid when you reach retirement and you begin withdrawing from a 457 plan. The Internal Revenue Code has been amended that now Roth IRA options can be made available, which are extremely valuable because money that goes into a Roth IRA is taxed at the time of contribution, but any gain on that Roth IRA at the time of retirement is taken out tax-free. The other issue that concerned me when I made the rollover from my own 457B plan to a retirement IRA, we have 3 different 457B plans. 2 of the vendors of those, there was no problem whatsoever with the rollover, but one kind of didn't want me to make the rollover and just made me jump through hoops, and I'd have to have HCAD's permission to roll it over, which is ridiculous. The other 2 didn't require that. And I would like to see us amend those contracts. I understand that before retirement, you do have to have the employer's permission to withdraw. That's a federal law. But it's your money when you're retired, and just because somebody doesn't want to let the money go out of their plan that they're getting a fee for administering, that ought to be strictly between the retiree and the plan. And so one of the things that I would like to see changed is that there would be no requirement to get HCAD approval to take your required minimum distribution, which you have to take by federal law, or you pay a penalty to the IRS. So those are that's what this is all about. So Roland, let me recognize you, and
Yes.
y'all expand on this further.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. You've done an excellent job in explaining that. We're going to have Teresa Paul come up here and regurgitate some of that great information you provided.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, board members. Thank you, Mr. Robinson, for doing half of the presentation for me. So this might go over a little bit. The district has maintained a deferred compensation plan authorized by the 457 Internal Revenue Code for district employees since 1982. From time to time, the plan documents requires amendments or restatements to remain compliant with the code, federal law, and federal limitations. Our current plan allows employees to contribute $23,500 under the age of 50, an additional $7,500 for those 50 and older in a catch-up contribution, and for those within 3 years of retirement, double the annual base limit. All of these contributions, as Mr. Robinson mentioned, are pre-taxed, and we do take advantage of that. That helps our employees out quite a bit. Recent legislation, specifically the Secure Act 2.0, has introduced significant changes to the retirement plan rules, some of which are effective 2025 and 2026. The first change is a Roth catch-up contribution. Starting in 2026, participants' prior year wages that exceed $145,000 in 2025 are required to make the age 50-plus catch-up contributions to a Roth option after tax basis. If the plan does not offer a Roth options, these employees would be ineligible to contribute more than just the basic amount. The second change is an increase in the catch-up limits for those ages 60 to 63. These participants have a higher catch-up contribution available at $11,250, opposing the $7,500. So HCAD has 3 deferred compensation vendors that employees can choose from. Voya, formerly Aetna, has 44 participants. Nationwide Retirement Services has 101 participants, and Security Benefit has 42 participants. District employees deferred approximately $1.1 million annually to these 457 plans. We do have all 3 vendors available in case anyone has any questions. I did verify with them that the only thing that we have to provide for terminated employees is their date, so that we are saying that they are no longer employed as of this date. But as Mr. Robinson said, after you retire, it is between you and the vendor to move your funds, transfer them, or just begin the distribution. So we ask the board to move to approve the amendments to the Deferred Compensation 457 plan to reflect changes made by the Secure Act 2.0 and add the Roth option for after tax. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right, and before we ask for discussion, let me recognize the arrival of Director McCrutchen, who actually arrived at about 9:58. And, welcome to the meeting. She had a doctor's appointment this morning. Okay, do we have a motion to discuss and possible action to approve this item?
So moved.
All right, moved by Director Dixon. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, seconded by Director Bluford Daniels. Any discussion? All right, Director McCrutchen.
Yes, ma'am. Can you tell me who are the 4 companies that you are working with? You said Voya, Nationwide,
And Security Benefit.
it's only 3?
Yes, 3.
And that's to an amount of what?
1.1 million that the employees are putting away each year.
Okay.
Director Dixon.
So do we offer training to our employees about the benefits of a 457B? Because I would think a lot more employees would use it if they know that they could withdraw for college payments and different things like that. I'm just curious.
Yes, ma'am. We for sure bring all of them out before open enrollment so that when they're enrolling for the health benefits every year, but we have also contacted them, and they were going to be coming out quarterly to make presentations to the employees so that they know. And they will be they always distribute information, to the employees. So,
But you're saying that's coming from the actual companies. So like HR, I mean, I feel like HR should send something out to say, here are benefits,
They
pros
do.
and cons. Okay,
Our-
so
our
we are
benefits
doing something
administrator-
internally.
Yes, ma'am. Our
Okay.
benefits administrator, Jacob, does send out emails letting them know of what we have available for them to take advantage of.
But so saying it's available and then saying people are coming out, or is he also sending something to say these are the benefits? Like, I don't know, I'm just always thinking education world. School districts, we make sure from internally, like these are the benefits if you were to use this type of plan, and not letting it fall on the companies specifically to be able to address that.
We do send out some handouts that has the detail as to the advantages of doing the different types of contributions. So yes, we do, but we probably will make it more available maybe 3 or 4 times a year so that they are aware of it. But yes, I will touch base with Jacob is in the back.
Okay, thank you very much.
We will make an extra effort to
And-
get that out.
Thank you.
Yes, Director Noriega.
I'm not sure this is correct, but maybe embedded in that question is this seems like a low number. I mean, it does to me. But again, I went through a school district where they worked really hard at helping us understand it. And I think that's really the underlying issue. So I don't know enough to know if that's true, but it feels like it to me, and I would just like some attention maybe given to this, which is really what you're saying, I think. So
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm not, the numbers that you shared of employees that are utilizing this seems awfully low to me. Yeah.
We will make a bigger effort to get the word out and educate everyone on taking advantage of this type of putting away money for
I agree
retirement.
with both of you. It is a marvelous program. The fact is that people that work here need to take account of the fact that you're not paying into Social Security. And there's no way to predict the future, except that all of the experts say that we're probably looking at a prolonged period of inflation. In an inflationary environment, as much as you can save for retirement, you're the better off for doing so. And I know I never made the maximum contribution. I wish I had. But what I made, it's certainly been a benefit to me now to begin to be able to draw that, even though I don't enjoy paying the income tax each year on the withdrawals. But it's money I would not have had had I not participated. And I would urge all of you that work at HCAD, if you're not participating in the plan, to consider doing so.
And what looks important at 25 looks really different at 65.
That's true.
And that time goes much faster than you think. So just saying.
Indeed it does. All right, well, we have a motion on the floor. We won't do a roll call. We'll do just a voice vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries unanimously. All right, we'll move to item 10, which is discussion and possible action to approve the district's TCDRS, which that's the Texas County and District Retirement Plan rate, and maintain other TCDRS plan provisions for plan year 2026. And Mr. Altinger, would you please elaborate on that?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, board members. This is a routine item that we come to the board on yearly. You can see at the bottom of page 50 that the proposed election rate would be 16.98%, and the required rate is at least 16.53%. The reasons for those differences is we normally put in a large contribution every year towards this plan, and this year, because the cost for litigation has gone up significantly, we're not going to be able to make that, so we're asking the board to stick with the 16.98% elected rate. That's all I have, unless
All right,
Teresa wants to add something.
Do we have a motion to proceed then with item 10?
I so move.
All right, moved by Ms. Ramirez. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Director Scott. Any discussion? All right, if not, let's vote, and we will again vote by just voice vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries unanimously. All right, our next item is 11, discussion and possible action to approve specifications for security services and authorize publishing of requests for proposals. While we do have our own internal security force, we do supplement that with contractors. And Mr. Altinger, would you please explain that?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, board members, this is just to go out for the request for proposal. You can see in the agenda item that that will start if the board approves the request for approval today. We will then request the proposals and open the bids, and then come back to the board in January to get the contract filled. As you stated, Mr. Chairman, the security is provided by an HCAD security staff, but we, after hours, and need supplemental folks in security come in during the day, we contract, and that's what this request for proposal is.
All right, do we have a motion to discuss and approve that item?
So moved.
All right, moved by Secretary Dixon. Do we have a second? Seconded by Director McCrutchen. Any discussion? All right, if not, we'll do a voice vote again. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries unanimously. All right, our final item is the one that Committee Chair Scott mentioned in his presentation, which is basically an emergency to replace a power distribution unit in the main data center from Correct Electric in the amount of $125,000. And Director Scott has already gone through that item. So do we have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Motion by Director Scott. Do we have a second? Second. All right, seconded by Director McCrutchen. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, all right.
Ms. Noriega.
The record is so corrected. All right. Again, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries unanimously. And that moves us to our discussion items. Item 13 is discussion of valuation considerations the year after a successful protest. And we just lost power.
Power.
So let me,
Check
let
in
me
the back.
bring up the paper copy of this. Okay. Yes, and Director Bluford Daniels has arrived, and we will, Kathy, we'll call on you for your report.
Thank you. Okay, the power is working for the speaker. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The ARB Appointment Committee interviewed applicants for 2026 Appraisal Review Board on October the 10th, the 24th, and November the 7th. So we've had 3 interviews already. From these 3 meetings, the committee would recommend 24 applicants for the board to review and approve for appointment this month. The applications will be available during executive session for board members to review, and the next interview session is scheduled for Friday, November the 21st. And I also wanted to add, let me get my note here so I can stay focused. Our interview process has been somewhat slow in responses and attendances. So those of you that may know someone, as we're putting the call out, that may be interested in serving on the panels, then please have them to apply and do so as soon as possible. We've already talked with and spoken with Mr. Altinger and Mr. Adam about extending the deadline that we had initially stated for past the initial target date of December. And also, I don't know if he's in here now, Jack. Thank you, Jack, because Jack is always available for us and assisting us with his ARB process. I talked to Mr. Chair. I sent all this information to him as deliverables so that we can get some sound dates decided and processes in place. And also, we're extending to further to more community newspapers. Indeed has been the primary source for a lot of the applications, so we want to use word of mouth and various other forms to try to extend that application process. And also, we talked about considering a follow-up email to applicants that have applied. We said, yes, you can come and interview, and they don't show up. So if we can get some kind of way of trying to see what that may look like as to why they're not coming after they've been approved to be interviewed. I'm sorry, but I also wanted to thank. I can't continue without thanking this committee. It has been fierce and strong, and we appreciate you. It really has. We appreciate your services and having to come in from out of town in some cases to serve on the committee. Director Scott, Director McCutcheon, Director Erica, how about that? Everybody that supported it. Ms. Terry keeps us in line. and we appreciate that. There's so many. I knew I was going to do that once I started calling names, but Scott, the attorney, he helps us immensely, weeding out those people. Miss Wendy, thank you all for serving. And I'm calling all these names because I wanted to publicly thank these people. Mr. Altinger, thank you for coming in, checking on us, and providing lunch. Cindy, thank you for keeping it on our calendars. And these people don't get the recognition that they deserve in some instances. So I wanted to say that. Thank you, Adam, and for coming in and supporting us as well. We've had so far, I think, 7 meetings is what it has been, and we tried to review more applications, so we wouldn't have to have 11 meetings this year for this process. And Olson and Olson, Tammy has been, and your staff has been. I mean, I just can't thank you enough for weeding out some of the issues that we could have possibly had, and preventing that from happening. So thank you again. And so that's the end of my report, Mr. Chair, but I just wanted people to know that these people are serving just tremendous, they're giving up responsibilities, because you all know that we don't get paid. Hey, Jack, I see you back there now. Thank you. But we don't get paid, but we spend a lot of time up here. Melissa, thank you for stepping in periodically to support as well. So I just wanted to publicly say thank you to this committee and this team, because they're not thanked enough. Hey, Scott, what kind of socks you have on? I tease him all the time because he wears those different kinds of socks. So I can't get in trouble, but thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Melissa.
I just have a quick question. Am I correct in my understanding that there's a requirement for these interview meetings to have one of the elected directors present?
Two of them.
Two elected directors.
Well, what we've tried, we can have a maximum of 4 directors present, but I made the 3 elected directors permanent members of the committee because under the tax code, you've got to have, when we actually vote to do an appointment, you've got to have the support of at least 2 of the publicly elected directors.
So that's where the statute
So,
is,
yeah,
and
so
I
that's
got
where
it.
the statute
I
comes
just wanted to make sure that wasn't part of any of our struggle with any of this. It's really that people don't come after they've said they were going to come. Is that correct?
That's been the case so far. And I'm not sure how well it's been received or distributed out to the various opportune places like the newspapers in the various communities. We may even look at perhaps radio announcements, but we have opportunities for people to come in and serve. So all they have to do is apply, and then we'll come in and interview. They'll come in, and of course, after they've gone through the process, the hiring process, then they'll interview. So yes.
All right, you've answered my question. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, I know last year Jack got us a flyer. I think if you can get us a flyer again, I'm talking for the board members, so that we can share with all the entities that we represent. Because I feel like even with Commissioner's Court, each commissioner would send it out in their newsletter that goes out to their constituents. And so that may just be another opportunity. So I just wanted to put that out there.
And thank you for that, too, because I sent it out to the City of Houston District council members. I didn't send it to the at-larges, but we might want to look at sending it to the council members as well so that they can put it in their newsletters. Everybody's got newsletters right now while we've got campaigns going. So everybody has a newsletter. Let's get it to them, and let's get it distributed accordingly.
Well, and the more we can do to get the word out that we're seeking applicants, because we need a lot more applicants than we have. And we've gone through a period where it was early on that it was easy. Years ago, it was easy to get applicants, but it's gotten progressively harder each year. Before we move on to the discussion items, though, I want to announce that I'm appointing Director Jones as the 4th regular member of the ARB committee.
Thank you,
and
sir.
if you would be honored us by that service, we would appreciate it.
Be delighted.
Thank you. All right, let's move to the discussion items, and we lost a power to the screen when I first brought this up. The first item is a discussion of valuation considerations in the year after someone has a successful protest. and the effect of characteristic changes in the subsequent year. And Mr. Altinger, if you would please explain that.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman and board members. This came up last month when the question came up on if a property has a cracked slab and that information is provided to the board, what do the characteristic changes do and what do they mean? And Jason Cunningham's going to come up and give you a PowerPoint presentation on this and then address any questions you might have.
It's already there. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Can you hear me okay? Okay. All right. As Mr. Altinger mentioned, this came up last month, and it was a short question, but it brought up more of a something we need to explain, because I gave this presentation about 10 years ago is the last time, so I thought it would be good to kind of go over the some of the tax code provisions that we have to work with. So there's a section of the code 23.01E that was added years ago, and if a property owner comes in and protests their value, they go to the appraisal review board, and they're successful in that protest, the chief appraiser may not raise the value the next year unless it's reasonably supported by substantial evidence, and that we have to consider all evidence that's available. So we can satisfy this requirement by having substantial evidence or addressing inequity. And if we do raise that value, the burden of proof falls on the chief appraiser. So some of the steps we take is multiple times a year we're doing ratio studies. We're supposed to appraise property at 100% of market value. As the year goes by, as the market changes, if we have an increasing market, you'll see those ratios drop into the 90s, into the 80s, telling us that the market is changing. If those ratios start going over 100, that means that the market is decreasing. And so we have to track these values and track the market from the data that we do have. We have to look at equity issues that we may have in neighborhoods or market areas. And one of the things that we do here to meet with this section of the tax code is if we are going to raise a value for any reason on each individual account, we're going to put a flag into our CAMA system, or computer assisted mass appraisal system, that will indicate why we raised the value. So if we decrease the value, which we do decrease values, we don't have to put a reason, but if we raise the value, we have to specifically say why we're doing it. We also spend time when we're not in hearings or in the field, and this is mostly done by the valuation analyst, reviewing outliers, listening to ARB recordings to see what was actually said, contacting property owners in some cases to follow up on the issues that we've had. There's been a long-standing policy of the district to review the characteristics with the property owner when they come into a hearing. If they come into an informal meeting, the first thing we do is, your home is this property at this address, it's this square foot, it's brick. Go over the characteristics to make sure if there's any discrepancies, we can work those out in the informal meeting. If they come to the formal, we do the same thing, try to verify the characteristics again, correct them if needed. Sometimes we can correct those right there on the spot. There's other times when we have to send an appraiser out to the field and then reschedule that hearing. There are characteristics that are more subjective that we may not agree with the tax agent or the property owner. The condition of the property can be subjective. The grade of the property, and a lot of folks think of grade and condition as the same thing, but they're not. The grade or quality of the property, whether it's residential, commercial, the grade is the quality of construction at the time that it's built. So grade doesn't change. Condition changes. Depreciation happens every year, and so the condition of the property, and we have characteristics in our CAMA system that depreciate properties every year based on tables and models. The other thing, there's going to be external influences like traffic, noise, I'm next to a school, or other location issues. And then there's land influences. And I'm going to give you a couple examples here in a second. If the this is kind of going to our point about crack slabs, and I'm going to talk about that specifically also here in a minute. If the characteristics of a property change, regardless of whether we go to the field and we change them, or someone comes in and tells us they have a crack slab or some other issue and we change the characteristics, we're doing that in the CAMA system and it stays there. That doesn't mean that the value's not going to change. The value can still go up or still go down, even though those characteristics have changed. But I'll give you an example here in a second. If the market value is increasing in these areas in Harris County, they all fall under this section of the code that I just mentioned. If we feel like we have substantial evidence enough, we place that flag on the property, and these are our main flags that you're going to see. Something changed with the property for commercial, and occupancy change happened. There was an income change. The market data that we have supports an increase. We delineate a neighborhood. We decide that this neighborhood that we have, a lot of times people think of their neighborhood as the sign in front of their neighborhood when they drive in. But as you know, in a neighborhood, there can be properties of all different types. And so if you have maybe smaller 1,500 square foot homes in one section of the neighborhood, in another section you have 4,000 square foot homes, we're going to put those likely into different neighborhoods for our valuation purposes. We go out and we do re-inspections, and so we may be in a neighborhood because we haven't been there in a while, and we're going door to door relisting every property that we can get to, and there's a lot of changes that occur there. And then we have our new construction process, which we're starting right now, now that all the appraisers have gone to the field and they're out there going to new homes, remodels, anything that has we've received a permit on or that we need to follow up from the previous year. There could be repairs that occur. There could be equalization problems in order to make sure that our values are not only accurate but equal and uniform. And then there's the change from, there's a section in the code that allows builders to have valuation under an inventory value, and when those go from an inventory value to an individual market value, that's another reason for a value to increase. This is not a full list, but it's just example of the type of characteristics that influence the value. Obviously, the location, the land value. Are there influences to that location? Is there a commercial next door to it? Has it flooded? Is the shape and size of the land restrictive to what you can build there? You can have view issues where you have a neighborhood where there's a golf course and my property sits on the golf course, and so I have those sales on that golf course are higher than the people in the neighborhood that don't live next to the golf course. And then on the property itself, or on the improvement itself, there's the grade or quality, all the condition issues, deferred maintenance, damage, flood, crack slab, and then our percent good or the age of the property. As the property gets older, it depreciates, and then there's remodel levels and excuse me, additions to the property. So this one's a little extreme, but there's your crack slab. When we're going out to the field, you'll have to remember that most of the time we don't get into the interior of the property. Our best chance of getting into the interior of the property is when a house is being built. And so that's when we try to insist that appraisers make sure they get it right the first time, because that's likely the first and only time we're going to walk into that house. The crack slab can usually, especially in brick homes, be seen from the outside when it starts getting extreme. And so if a property owner comes in and says, I have a cracked slab, here's an engineer's report that says the extent of the damage and the amount of piers and things that I'm going to have to do to my house to fix it. And we place a indicator in our CAMA system that says this has a cracked slab. Currently, it's going to reduce the value of that property $10 per square foot of the first floor. So the example here, you have a 2,000 square foot home, 1,000 square foot is on the first floor. They say they have a cracked slab, so $10 times 1,000 gives a negative 10,000 on that property, and that's going to carry over to the next year, as long as we leave that on there. The piece that with cracked slabs is most people want to repair that at some point, and so. And before I talk about that, there are times when our estimate of the damage and that $10,000 in this case, maybe that our system isn't going to reflect the actual. Maybe the property owner is bringing in an estimate that says it's going to cost $20,000 to fix that, and in that case, we're going to make those adjustments based on the real data, and we're also going to make adjustments in other places in our CAMA system, maybe the condition of the property, to try to reflect that additional, because there's cracked slabs and there's cracked slabs. I have a cracked slab and it affects 100 square foot of my home near the driveway, and there's cracked slabs where it's all through the house, and they're going to have to dig tunnels under that house to place piers. So the cost of a cracked slab can range. Once we find out that a cracked slab has been repaired, our system is still going to make a reduction to the property because it's not quite as good as one that doesn't have a cracked slab. And in our CAMA system, it's $4 per square foot of the first floor. So that's what's going to carry over each year in that specific instance. I want to talk about another issue that we frequently run into. A property owner comes in and protests, says, I have a location problem. I'm next to a busy street. I'm next to a school, and every day at 3 o'clock, I can't get down my street because there's 4 million cars picking up their kids. Whatever that issue is, we may make influence in our CAMA system for the differences. I just wanted to, this is just a very simple example of this is actually a friend of mine's house who protested and was not happy with the results and wanted me to look at it, and he was adamant that this comp in my neighborhood should have been used, and I looked at it, and all the comps similar to this property were at a certain level, and then the one that he wanted to use was a lower value by about, I think it was $40,000 or $50,000. So this is the subject property, and about 2,000 square feet, been remodeled at some point, has a pool, and it's surrounded by other neighbors. It doesn't have really, there's not an influence on this property that's external. They're just smack in the middle of the neighborhood. So when I looked at the property that he wanted to use as a comparable, you can't really see the house very well, but this house is very similar. But the reason it was lower is it's on the edge of his neighborhood, and I should have put in the picture of this strip center because this is not a very nice strip center. But this person sides a strip center, a warehouse, a car wash, and then has a busy road kind of behind. And so that's why the value of that property was different. And so every year, if the values are going up in that neighborhood, they'll go up at the same level, but this one's going to be lower because of its influence. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Oh, you know you're going to get it now.
All right, let's start with Director Noriega. We'll just,
Thank you. And
I
thank
think
you
everybody has questions, so we'll just work
for the
work down the
presentation. That
table.
was,
Mr. Chair.
that was really helpful. Did I hear you say that we flag this in CAMA when this occurs?
Yes, we actually, so CAMA is a massive database for our appraisal
Right.
pieces and exemptions, and we have fields that are specific to all these things. There's a field for crack slab, yes, no.
So do we have stats on what we actually do? Like,
Who puts it in?
How often this,
How often that
I mean,
specific,
you've got a flag, so you ought to be able to tell how many there are, right?
we could tell you how many crack slabs there are, yes.
Not necessarily crack slabs, just,
So for,
big sites. Tell me
for
what the real
just
issue is.
residential property, we go out to the field for changes, potential changes in properties during the new construction process, typically between 40 and 60,000 properties that are getting changed just from new home, put an addition on, remodel, whatever it is. During our reinspection process, where we're required to reinspect properties on a 6-year basis based on the International Association of Assessing Officers standards, we also find changes when we do that. There's people that don't pull permits. There's things that happen that we don't find out unless we go out there. So it is all housed in that CAMA system. Every change, everything we're touching on these properties is in that system. So, if you want the stats, I'd need a little more information on like which changes are you interested in?
I don't want to cause a bunch of extra anything. I just am clear that if we needed to look at this, to look at any kind of patterns or that kind of thing, I think the public would be astounded at how many properties and parcels and, all of that's dealt with this organization every year. So I just wondered if there was a report somewhere that sort of looked at this.
Well, we track all of our work and all of our production, and we can look at each year or by month how much we've done in whatever project it is. To your point, I'm only talking about residential property.
Right, and I am too. And maybe it doesn't matter, but maybe there are patterns in there, and I just was wondering if we
commercials
reported
out
it
there are
somewhere.
doing the same exact thing. There's changes in commercial, there's changes in personal property, there's changes in industrial. So there's an army out there right now basically going to properties all over the city, or all over the county, rather.
Right, okay, thank you.
All right. Director McCutcheon, do you have?
Yes. So how are you all finding out whether the residents are having crack slabs? They're coming in and saying, hey, I have a crack slab? And then that's
the
when...
majority of the time, yes, that's how we're going to find out.
Okay.
We do find when we're doing re-inspections, a lot of times, there's sometimes when property owners don't tell us, and if we visit the property and we see that, like
Sure.
from the outside, we're going to put it on there ourselves because we know that there's a problem.
So when they come in and report that, look, I have a crack slab, you guys make it a point to go out there to verify.
So if it happens in the hearing, we're going to put that crack slab on the account in the hearing, and then we're going to typically put it in our system to be revisited for the next year, because we assume that at some point they're going to fix that. And so that would go into our, if someone came in this summer, said I have a cracked slab, it's now in our workload for this fall to go out and look at it in the field.
Okay, the reason I ask that is because most people who do have cracked slabs, if they are holding a mortgage on their property, their insurance company is going to require them to have that fixed.
Right. And that's in the majority of the time they do get fixed. And so we're trying, and let's say they came in this summer, said they have a cracked slab, we go out there in November and they haven't fixed it, we're going to put that on our system for 2026 to go out again to see if we're going to keep going out there to see until they fixed it.
So if I have a cracked slab, I come to an ARB, I have my interview, and at that point, is there the deduction taken for that year to reduce?
Yes.
And then the next year you go out to check and see if it's been repaired?
We're actually going to go out the same year.
Okay.
At the end of the same year.
Okay,
Okay, Director Scott.
So if I'd known crack slab was going to be the placeholder and you would have had to have said it so many times, I would have used subsidence-induced foundational damage just to watch you keep doing it.
Can I use an acronym for that?
Just say.
So I think my question, and this is coming from the public, and right, crack slab is just a placeholder. So $100,000 home, 10,000 gets knocked off because I come in. When I see my property valuation for the next year, and let's say I have, a homestead exemption, and now my appraised value is 110, my thought process is, well, it should only be 99. So how does that process work? And then I'll go back a second year, my house is paid off, so I never got it fixed. And I go back in again, and I use the same quote, and I feel like I'm doing the same thing over and over again. So are they right in assuming that the next year's appraisal, say there's a 10% max, is starting at the 90? Or does it start that where I won my protest? Or does it start at the 100, which was the original protested value of the next year?
Good question.
So, okay, so you have the situation, you get $10,000 knocked off the system for this year. We're starting with looking at overall, again, this is a mass appraisal process, so we're looking at every property, and we're saying, okay, in this neighborhood, how are we at 100% of market value or not? And if we do our ratio study at the beginning of the year, let's take this year. We valued all the properties. Let's say most of them went up, and then we went through 550,000 protests. There's crack slabs, there's issues, values get lowered. We're going to do a ratio study at the end of that hearing season and say, okay, when we noticed we were at 99% in this neighborhood. We were close. We were within the parameters that we need to be. Now we've had a hearing season, and in this neighborhood, we've also had 7 months of potential appreciation that's happened in the market. Run that ratio study. Now we may be at 90% because the market, we don't make the market, we follow the market. And so if the market is moving fast, rapidly up, it's changing every single month. And so at that point, we are, okay, our value's low. Our value's 10% low in this neighborhood. That reduction that was put on the property is still there for the next year. And so if we are increasing values in a neighborhood to get closer to 100% of market value for the entire neighborhood, you're going to see the entire neighborhood move that 10%, but that account that has that cracked slab is still $10,000 lower than the same house that doesn't have that cracked slab.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
So I guess my question would be, in order to address the public concern that I'm having to do the same thing year over year, is there any way, and these things are long enough and confusing enough anyway when you get your valuations, to just put something in there like, we get it, you have a cracked slab, we got you.
And we do. And I will tell you that
In there?
appraisers are
No,
fielding
I'm
this
saying in what I get at the house,
at what you get at the house.
right? To say, oh, well, not, right, so maybe I don't feel the need to protest, but know that I don't have to remind you.
Right, exactly.
Okay. Yes, we could do that.
I mean, yeah.
One of the things that there's going to be a cost associated with that because our notice is jam-packed with statutory things we have to put on it, so it would likely have to be another document or two. When someone protests, they then can get access to all of their evidence, and all of that information is right there in their evidence. So if I go protest my property, my evidence is now available. I click into my evidence, and the very first summary page is going to tell me all those same things on that page, and it's going to be 50 pages of documents or so. All the sales information's there. It's there. The appraisers spend a lot of time with people come in, cracked slab, come in the next year, hey, I told you I had cracked slab. Yes, we know. We have it on your account. Here it is, right here. Noted that you have this slab. Here's the reduction. We spend a lot of time doing that in informal meetings, especially.
And so I understand the cost of putting it out, and The fact is that a lot of these reports are complicated to property owners, and I'm one, and I would look at it, I don't know what you're saying, man. Just put crack slab in red. But at the same time, going through that, and I understand it increases the cost. What I would like for us to consider is, how are we more customer friendly? Because there's a cost associated with an after the fact evaluation. I don't necessarily have the answer for it. Yeah.
And of course, I had a slide in here that I deleted because it had a bunch of confidential information on it. But
Thank you.
It was a
Kyle, here's your house.
it was that first page that I mentioned in your hearing evidence packet, and we've tried to make it as clear as possible on that. It's basically just a one-page landscape. Here's a picture of your house. This is how many square feet it has. This is how much land it has. Here's the influences on your land. Here's, all the characteristics. It's a B grade. It's an average condition. All that stuff we have on that very first summary page. You don't see that unless you protest. And so, we'd be happy to discuss, what items would make sense on a notice. We've had things that we've put on the website. A lot of stuff's out on the website. We've had people that protest, say, I think I've said crack slab 400 times, but we've had people that say, I have a crack slab, give us evidence. And I think Mr. Robinson talked about this last meeting. It's on the website, and now they don't want it on the website, especially at the time they're going to sell. And so we keep ebbing and flowing what we're putting on the website because we get pushback sometimes with some of it. Sometimes legislation tells us what we can do or post or not. But I'd be happy to discuss it further.
To me, this is, right, there's no silver bullet on this. This is one, some of this may have to be addressed legislatively to bring more clarity for property owners and how these protest items are incorporated into the next valuation. And the other side, it's kind of an information and an educational initiative on here's what the law says, here's how it's being applied, and here's how you should read these protests. So I'm not saying there's a silver bullet, and I'm certainly not saying it's easy. But I appreciate the presentation today. It helped me a lot. Thank you.
Director Ramirez.
Thank you. So I'm not going to talk about crack slabs, I promise. I'm going to go back just a bit to the portion of your presentation when you talked about what happens during a hearing. And I know that we as directors probably here, we get all the complaints.
That's right.
And so there may not be as many complaints overall, but for us it seems, right, a lot, because that's all we get. But the one common denominator that I hear throughout my complaints is that there was no explanation to the property owner of how value is determined. There is no listening to their evidence. And so while that may or may not hold true, I think that we need to make sure that those ARB members and those people that are conducting the hearings make sure that they're deliberate in ensuring that that property owner feels that they were heard, and that there are some really in-depth and great explanations that happen as to how and why a value got to where it is. Consistently, that is just the concern and the complaint that we get the most, is that they're not heard when they go in there, and they're really just brushed aside, and they're told this is the value we came up with, and you're stuck with it. And so, that's another part of understanding how it works in the education piece, which is a huge hurdle for us and for you all as well, just because of the volume that we deal with. But if someone has come in and taken the time to come in and protest, I want to make sure that even if they're not happy with the resolution, that they feel that they were heard and everything was explained to them in layman terms and in terms which they can understand.
Jason, I'm going to double back on a comment that Director Scott made. And, specifically his question was, could we put some kind of flag on the notice of appraised value that says there's been a deduction for a correct slab? And you talked about cost implications of adding it. I would argue that the cost of scheduling a hearing dramatically, geometrically exceeds the cost of adding a single line to the notice of appraised value. And I think we ought to seriously consider that. Put an asterisk on the value and just a one-line note, a deduction made for crack slab. That's going to cost a heck of a lot less than scheduling a hearing.
Okay. And I guess the further the further discussion on that would be, would there be other things that we would want to put on the notice, that you have a 20% reduction because you're next to commercial and all those other things that occur?
Well, you can't put everything, but the crack slab, my experience, that issue comes up more than any one thing. It's just something that repeats year after year. Why don't I have credit for my crack slab?
Okay.
And you could fix that just by setting that one flag on the notice.
It might be enough to have a flag that says, go look, there's more. I mean,
Right.
just saying.
Yeah.
I'm not sure people know to go look for stuff.
There is, I would encourage all of you to go take your notice and read it from front to back. There is an enormous amount of information there that is very helpful if you do look at it. Yes. And to the point of the hearing, and I'm not going to make excuses for appraisers. It's just what it is. I don't know how long this presentation has been going right now, but the ARB is very constrained. You know, they're trying to certify, and so those hearings, they're under a huge time constraint. The appraiser in the room is under a huge time constraint. The ARB is kicking off the hearing. The appraiser is looking at that account for the very first time to quickly go through, and then evidence is presented from the property owner or the agent. The appraiser's making a quick recommendation, and then the ARB is making a determination of what the value is going to be. And so there is explanation typically in a hearing, but it's not to the level, you know, that some folks may want. And that's why the outreach and the other things where we have long format discussions are important, because it's hard to do a lot of this discussion in a 15-minute ARB hearing.
So, agree, it's difficult. I come from a background of having to deal with the same thing in court, and we take the time to explain it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we take the time to explain it. When you talk about education and outreach, and my office is happy to partner with HCAD, but 1 hour evening presentations at a civic organization or any kind of club are not what our community needs. They actually need full-on workshops where somebody can come sit down and work through issues and have the time where they're not under the time constraints of an ARB hearing, but they can actually show up and talk to somebody and have those in-depth conversations to have those things explained to them. And that's just the only way we're going to get around this. There's a lot of outreach and education that needs to happen,
I
and
agree.
it can't be surface. It has to be, we have to be really available for the
Right.
community.
Okay, before I move on down the table, I want to double back one more time to Kyle's thing. You note that the time is very constrained at a hearing. But if I'm mad because I think I haven't gotten credit for that brick slab, I'm going to raise that in the hearing. So you've taken up some time in the hearing by having to talk about it. If you put the flag, you might not have to talk about it. Let's put a flag on it, Adam.
I agree.
Okay.
Okay, move on to.
Can I do one thing real quick? I never get to tell you good news. So Byron Stanley's our new, I keep calling him new, year and a half residential property director, a person relatively new in the field. Right now, hearings have gone down to 1 day, and the field folks are out in force. And we get calls all the time. Is this a real HCAD person? Well, why are they in my neighborhood, et cetera? This came from a frontline appraiser who's been here probably less than a year, named Billy Young. You'll probably see him as an employee of the month next month. He said, why don't we have a QR code on our HCAD sign that shoots us to our map that we already have online to show where we are in the field?
Good.
So we're going to be ordering new magnetic signs for the cars. It's going to have this QR code on it. If someone shoots that code, it brings you to our interactive map that's refreshed every day and shows you where we are in the field. It's not going to pinpoint the exact location, but it's going to tell you where we are located. And I just wanted to show you that real quick.
So the property owner can
I think that's a
use
great
that.
idea.
Make sure it's the real HCAD
Yeah,
person.
yeah. So
That's the
the
questions down here.
Okay, well, let's move on down the table.
Yeah, I have a few things, so. But
ahead.
I will preface this by, prior to my time on the board, every time that we came in to protest, we were happy with our ARB hearings and always received very good service. I do want to preface that. A couple of things. So one, just kind of Ms. Noriega, when she said something about, are we tracking patterns? I know things are being flagged. And I guess the question that I had from what she said is, are we tracking those patterns? If so, what are we doing with that information? And we can answer that another day. I understand that we're flagging things, but are we actually tracking the patterns that she brought up?
Yes.
And then, Mr. Scott and Mr. Robinson spoke about the red line items. Maybe there's 3 things that come up a lot, not just crack slabs, right? Maybe there's 3 things that could be in red on that form. I just know for personally, when the letter comes in the mail that says what my value is and the numbers are there, that's how I decide if I'm going to protest. And I'm assuming that's what most people look at when they're making that decision. So if there are a few things that say, oh, we've already considered that you were flooded in Harvey, then okay, well, then I'm not necessarily as eager to go in and protest. But if I'm like, I think they forgot, and even if I've prepared, 90%, there's still 10% remaining, and I feel like I need to go in and reiterate that. But if it's listed, I think it does help you to be mindful. And then just as a former educator, I think Ms. Noriega will like this. What Ms. Ramirez said about what people say when they come into hearings, there are ways to plant things in people's minds just so that they remember. So words like evidence, if we say those words 3 to 5 times in a hearing, it's something that could be in a script where someone could say the word evidence more than once, here is the evidence, or this is how we got to this value. And if they say that 3 times, it can be planted in someone's mind. It's just using words to kind of allow that property owner to remember, or do you understand how we got to this value, and making sure that they're responsive to that. Those are just some tips that I think are valuable that might not even be thought about, right? So it's very simple language that could be in a script. Okay, but my personal things, I'm wondering, when you were talking about the characteristics and the reason the valuation may change, I think it would be helpful to almost have kind of ranges, what you look at. Can you pull up when you were talking about the valuation change reasons? Yes. So is there a way to almost have a rubric that says, okay, these are the characteristics that we look at, or how do you even get to that from an appraiser standpoint? Is there a scale of 1 to 5 on what you're looking for? If you're changing the condition of someone's home, how are you getting to that information? Is there a way for a homeowner to calculate and play with the system a little bit to understand better? And the reason I'm saying that is, I would say prior to being on the board, one of the reasons that I was very interested in being on HCAD board is I was, kind of the nerdy person at home that would go look at HCAD and compare my house to my neighbors and try to understand why their valuation was higher or lower than mine. It was just something that I would always do. So it was like, oh, well, I'm always on this website anyway on an annual basis looking at things. But thinking back on that today with AI and different things, it seems like I should be able to go in and say, based on this one condition, maybe that's something I need to consider as a property owner and come in and protest or not. Like, is there a way to do that? Or does that seem, and I don't want to say excessive, I just think transparency and information would be helpful to the homeowner?
It's mentioned in the hearing evidence again, there's that summary page that gives you all the high level, here's the grade, the condition, size, et cetera. We frequently have folks that realize, oh, my grade has a big influence in my value. So every year they come in and say, I want my grade lowered. But then we have to look at that and look at the parameters and the description of what each grade is. Does it fit? And a lot of times you'll have neighborhood, especially in homogeneous neighborhoods, you'll see almost every house has the same grade, right? They're similar size. Yes.
But if I click on my grade, and I don't know, but if I click on my grade, does it give me a description of what that means?
Yes.
It does.
Let me see if I can get to the website real quick. Okay, bear with me, I'm trying.
Use Kyle's property again.
Okay, so
The new format as well. Oh, you don't? I do.
okay. So you'll see, like, here's the land information.
Right.
There's various hyperlinks in here.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry to... And
Like here, so go down to where it says quality. If I were to click on fair,
okay, that actually, I
how
was
do we
thinking
get
of
there? Or C minus, how do we get there?
Actually, I was thinking of a different part of the website, sorry. So I'm sorry, let me correct that. My answer to that is no on your individual property. I'd have to do some more digging. There's,
If you have to dig, the peeps have to dig too.
Exactly, right, yeah.
I'm sorry? Definition.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
if you go back to that property, like if you were to hover over C minus, it seemed like a bubble should pop up and tell me what
I
determined
understand
that.
what you're saying.
Does that
Yes,
make
yes.
sense?
Yes, it does.
I'm just trying to think of ways, based on even personal experiences, right?
Right.
I don't do this anymore. I allow my significant other, my husband, to handle all of this being on the board. But I'm just, so I didn't, haven't looked at it in a little bit, but.
Well, apparently I haven't either, because I thought we had some of that.
But it looks
So-
great. It looks great. But I just think that, from my perspective, if there is a way to continually to inform, I think it would be beneficial. And as we're moving
Yep.
to try to,
I agree. I
change
agree.
the external image of things and PR, I think it's very important. That's all I have for now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your bravery. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for allowing us this time to address a lot of these concerns. And thank you, Mr. Altinger, too, and Adam for listening to this, because you knew once you got up here, it was going to be a lot of questions, correct?
That's why I wore my comfortable shoes.
But thank you. I really do appreciate that, and I appreciate you breaking it down in such a manner that we know and the public knows that we're asking pertinent questions that are important to them, for those of, for everybody that's a property owner, commercial, residential, or whatever. It's important that they know that we are who they elected, especially in our cases. Let's see. Y'all should see our notes back here on both sides. I mean, they're not going to show theirs, but Martina has about 3 pages and I have 2 pages. So we're writing things and making notes because the concern is continuous. They're contacting us as their representatives or as their voice to ask questions about why. Sound like Rihanna, didn't it? Why? Okay, so I'm going to give notes. I have so many of them. We want our property owners, number one, to feel heard. And everybody that said something up here, every one of the directors has addressed that. And I know we're going longer than ordinarily we do for this board meeting, but it's important.
Yes.
It's important that people hear that we're not siding necessarily with HCAD, and that's the perception. And we want to clear that up by asking questions that are asked of us continuously.
Yes.
You talked about the evidence availability period. I personally, because I do protest mine, I can't afford to pay somebody to do it, but I protest mine. But we talked about the evidence availability period. Let me just say that the evidence, what is that period? How long is that available when you're scheduled for a hearing?
It's available.
It's
up
2
to
weeks in
and-
advance.
Yeah, it's 2, but it's also available. Is it not available after the hearing too?
It's not available to the person who's protesting, and I'm telling you from experience. It should be available. If my protest is scheduled for 9 o'clock, and I'm coming here, I've said, yes, I'm coming to protest, that information should be available to 9:15. And it's not. After a certain period the night before, you are not allowed to be able to pull it up. I actually printed documentation showing that it was unavailable for me. Yeah, it happened. I printed.
We'd like to see the example because that's not the way it's supposed to work.
Well, that's the way it worked for me, and I brought that up. That's one of the things. I'm so glad, Mr. Chair, I've spoken to him about it, about having this exercise, because I was actually quite frustrated because I couldn't get it, and so I had to go in and utilize my few skills I had left as having served on the ARB panel, looking for key and trigger words and documentation and evidence just to bring for myself, because I had no idea what I was coming into. And so people, as mentioned, you've got these bubbles or drop-down menus. For the most part, the lay person like myself that is coming in to protest as a property owner, I can't follow all them threads. So we've got to make it as simplistic as possible. I know those of you, Beata, that are computer literate and y'all can do all those things. Make it simple, KISS, for those of us that can't. The CAMA system you talked about shows the depreciations, et cetera. Who inputs that information into the CAMA system?
Okay, so that's a whole nother presentation. But we have. I'll try to keep it simple. We have field people who are out in the field doing that work. We have valuation analysts in the commercial, residential, BIP, industrial, and personal property areas who that's all they're doing is valuation. They're running those ratio studies. They're trying to collect as much data as they can, all these various contracts that you approve to get market data in various areas. They're analyzing that information that's happening at the same time that people are out in the field. And so either one of those groups can make changes to the CAMA system. And so we have folks here who basically their full-time job, all the appraisers' full-time job is hearings while we're doing hearings. When we finally get out of hearings, you have folks that go to the field and you have people that are valuation analysts that are doing the work to study what the land values are doing in areas, what are the influences. They're using all these mapping tools, all of the information. You just approved a contract for TREP on information that we use. There's they're spending all of their time basically researching what the characteristics are of properties and what the value should be moving forward when we appraise January 1. And so all that, the CAMA system on the appraisal side is filled full of schedules that are developed and models that are developed. Each year we go through and we do a cost and depreciation study. And when doing that, if we have the mass appraisal report that's out on the website that explains in detail how we go about that process, because as y'all know, right now is a perfect example, the cost of everything's gone up. And so the cost of building materials goes up. And so we have to test our CAMA system, our appraisal system, if you will, against what is actually happening in the market. And we also have to look at a nationally recognized cost estimator to say, are we within parameters? Is our estimate of the cost correct? As simply as I can put it. And so we may adjust our base cost models because the cost of something is going up or going down. And then that information is in our CAMA system. Let's just pick a neighborhood, okay? We got 10 sales, 100 properties, and we're using those 10 sales to value those 100 properties, right? And we're making sure the characteristics of all these things are as accurate as we possibly can get them. And once we feel that we've got the characteristics correct, then we're applying our market adjustments to get to 100% of market value for the neighborhood. The nature of a mass appraisal is when you're shooting for a median of 100 in a neighborhood, which is the tax code requirement, by the nature of that, that means you're going to have some over 100, excuse me, some over 100 and some below 100. The way it's supposed to work in the theory is that only the people that are over 100% protest. But we know that's not the case.
That's not the case.
And
so again, who puts that information in there? Somebody get Jason some water. He's been under fire a long time.
The simple answer is who puts the appraisal information in the system is appraisers and valuation appraisal analysts.
And how long is it retained?
Until someone changes it. It's there. It rolls over every year. And the characteristics a lot of times for a property don't change, okay? Let's say, take your house, you haven't done any remodeling, you haven't done anything to it for 20 years. The characteristics of your property haven't changed except your house is 20 years older. And so there's a model or a table and schedule in the CAMA system. Thank you.
She's always attentive. Thank you,
There's
Christy.
no vodka in that, by the way.
I know that she's 1,000.
I can't live without her.
She's so good.
There's models in the system. So again, nothing's changed on your property. You haven't told us anything's wrong. There haven't been any permits. But the one thing that's changing every year is that your house is depreciating.
Right. I just want us to register that we need to follow up a process, because you mentioned earlier about reviewing the ARB hearings, et cetera. I want to know how often that's done, the frequency of that.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Some of the ARB hearings.
Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned about those hearings sometimes being reviewed.
Yes.
And I'd like to know the hearing, the frequency of it, how often someone's reviewing it and who's reviewing. Not necessarily the name, but
We
what
have
department is
several
doing.
review processes, and there's one that goes during the summer where we're trying to check the quality of our appraisers' work. And so there's some random sampling that goes into checking the work of each individual person that's doing hearings.
Okay.
And then on the back end, you have a lot more deeper dive from the analyst group looking at the valuation area as a whole. But
Well, that's an opportunity when they're reviewed to be able to address concerns with the ARB panelist or a person or whomever it is, or even the appraiser, that this is our concern and this is probably what needs to be addressed. The main thing is, though, is that, Jason, the property owner needs to feel heard.
Yes, I
regardless
agree.
of what the outcome is.
Yes, ma'am.
They need to feel heard. They need the information that Kyle suggested, that they can say that there's consideration given for each one of us have an opportunity. Now, this parentheses, since each of us have said cracked slabs, each of us have 5 times to say it. But they need to know that cracked slabs is an indicator or it's a consideration. So the main thing is we just need to look at where we can improve, follow up, and change the perception from the public that they're not being heard and we're not being transparent. So,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you for that. Thank you. That's the end of my questions and comments.
Please bear with me. I have a couple questions and a comment. First, I would like to just reiterate and voice my support for the idea that we need to make sure that the property owners feel heard. But I would expand on that a little bit and say, not only do they need to feel heard, they need to understand. Because if they don't understand what you're telling them, then regardless of feeling heard, I'm still not going to be satisfied with the process, right? So I don't want to imply that we need to dumb it down, but we need to simplify, in our explanations so that, yes, they have to feel heard, but they also have to understand because, I've spent countless hours talking to thousands of taxpayers, and consistently, as long as they understand, they may not like it, but if they understand what has happened, what their, possibility for remedies going forward. I had to have that conversation so many times. You're past all your deadlines. You can't do anything about the old years. But going forward, here's how you prevent this from happening again. Once they understand, it is a completely different conversation. So I just wanted to say that. There was a comment, mine go back some time. So at one point, there was a discussion about having the information available online. And for example, the one lady who, this is my turn, cracked slab, didn't want hers on the website, right? So, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, if you're going to upload your information, if you're filing a protest or what have you, you do that by creating an account on the website, right?
yes.
Okay. So if we already give property owners the ability to create an account, why can we not then give them the ability to use that same process, create that account, and then they can go in there and they can look without it being accessible to the general public. They can see their cracked slab. They can see whatever information that may be affecting their final value without, their mortgage company knowing that.
So a separate private look at your own property?
Well, I mean, because you already have that functionality because you have to, in order to go in and to protest it, I have to create an account. I have to say which of my properties, I have to identify my properties to connect them to that account. So why do I have to be filing a protest? Why can I not just log into that account and look at the backdoor information?
Years ago, you could, and Roland was over INA at the time. He had a whole wall full of books of information. Property owners would come in and say, I want to see the information that's going to be used in my hearing before I protest. They'd look at it, and a lot of them would decide not to protest. I don't know what year it was.
2005.
Thank you. They changed the law that we can't provide that information to a property owner unless they protest. And we don't like it because we would rather do what you're saying.
So, but you can't tell me.
We can tell you certain things. We can, all that stuff that's on the website, all the characteristics of your property, yes. when you.
But you can't tell me that my cracked slab from last year is still on
No, we
my
can.
account this year.
We can.
Okay.
Is that?
Mr. Chairman, can I make a comment?
Is crack
I-
slab on the
it-
website?
I'm hearing a lot of the things being repetitive with regards to the crack slab, and I know that Adam and company, because this is the best appraisal district in the nation, and I know we have the staff to do this, and I think with regards to the 2519 notice, we just add a short synopsis with regards to the value, and then if it does have a foundation issue, that also relates to the crack slab or the subsidence issue that Kyle Scott brought up, that it shows the reduction that they're getting for that particular property. That can be done with the 2519 notice. This board has a resolution that we send notices to everyone in the county. I would, you could also, looking at Beata and communicating with her, we could hyperlink the documents on the CAMA system on the website to show the various options that exist. But the final thing that I throw out there, and I'm going to look at Adam, he might shoot me for saying this, but you could put 4 or 5 sales and put that with that notice that you provide next year. You would have to exclude some of the confidential information because, as Mr. Cunningham mentioned, in 2005, I would talk to property owners left and right up until that point. They would come in, I'd show them the sales, and they'd say, well, Mr. Jones, he said he paid $150,000 for this house, and it really was $175,000. That information is only available when the property owner files a protest, but the appraisal district could pick 3 to 5 sales to say these are some of the sales. They might have that are in the neighborhood. They might have to redact the account number and the address to circumvent the law change that occurred in that session that required us to remove all those books. But I think some of these things would rectify some of the concerns that the board has.
And I would also encourage, if you have property owners who want to understand better, don't go directly to the ARB. Come to the informal meeting, because that's where we're able to have a much better discussion about the value of the property in a less constrained time frame.
Okay. The other thing that was mentioned is you talked about the market changes month to month throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
And my understanding from that comment was that when you are dealing with a protest, that you're taking into consideration how the market has changed since the time that you sent out the notice of appraised value. Was my understanding correct?
Okay, sorry, can you
There-
say that again?
Okay, so you send out the notice of appraised
Yes.
value, right? And you, whatever the value is that you put on it. That person then receives that notice and they file a protest. They come to the ARB hearing. What I took from your comment is that at the time of that hearing, you are taking into consideration market changes that occurred between the time that the initial notice of appraised value went out and the day that the hearing actually happens.
No, ma'am. We are required to appraise as of January 1.
Which was where I was going with
and
this.
so we're using typically the previous year's sales up until maybe January or February of the next year for our valuation period. And then we're noticing the property. That valuation notice that you get is our estimate or our opinion of value of your property as of January 1. And we're using that information that we use to value as our hearing evidence. And whether you have your hearing in June 1st or whether you have your hearing November 1st, we're still looking at the January 1 value and the information that we used to value that property.
Okay, so then can you explain to me what you were talking about when you were referencing the market changes month to month? Because
I was talking about when we're doing our valuation process, not hearings, okay? We're having to track the market. We have one of our main goals or one of our main charges to appraise property at its market value as January 1st. Very simple statement. There's a lot that goes into it behind the scenes. We have analysts in the various departments that are getting as much market data as they can. Texas isn't a disclosure state, so we don't just get every sale. And they're taking that information, and we're using ratio standards, ratio studies to look at what level of value are we at in a neighborhood or a market area an economic area for commercial to determine, is the market going up? Is the market going down? Is the market?
And you do this every month?
We do. We do it for official 4 times a year. And then we have a separate, okay, the valuation folks are using all of the information they can get their hands on to determine, is our value high, low, is it correct, does it not need to change? And they're running ratio studies on neighborhoods and areas consistently throughout the year. Then we have our official ratio studies that are done at periodic times during the year, pre-notice, after certification, and before January 1. There's different times. We're constantly running ratio studies, and we're
Okay,
constantly
so again,
tracking the
please
market.
Understand, this is my first real rodeo, okay? So I apologize. I'm not trying to be difficult. But if January
You're
1
doing
is the
fine.
magic day, why are we spending time constantly updating these doing these ratios? It seems like we would want to do it right before and right after January 1.
I'm not saying we're doing it every day, okay? But hearings take up an enormous part of our year. And it used to be that we were in hearings for 3 months, 2 months, and we had most of our year for valuation. We have to be updating these CAMA characteristics. We have to be loading sales information. We have to be getting all of the market data that we can throughout the year, because at the end of, once we get into, like right now, we didn't go down to 1 day in hearings a week until I think the first part of November. Okay, so now the analysts are in their full time. I got to get valued for January 1, and they have about 3 months at the most to do it. And so there has to be work done beforehand to prepare to do that valuation work in an extremely constrained time frame for almost 1.9 million properties.
Not to beat a dead horse. When you are looking at the valuation, how far back prior to January 1 are you looking sales?
So we're constrained by the tax code, and with commercial, I believe you can look back 3 years for ratio studies. For residential, it's 2 years. When we are, for residential property, we're typically, in your hearing evidence packet, we don't want to go back 2 years. We don't want to have to look that far back. And so we're trying to look at the most current sales, and we're trying to focus on the sales that are as close around that January 1st time frame as we can, because those should hopefully reflect what the market is now. There's a whole other process, that appraisal concept and that required by USPAP and all of those other things, is time adjustments, and you have to time it. If you're going to utilize a sale that's a year out, say a year older than your valuation date, you have to calculate a time adjustment to bring it to whether the market's increasing or decreasing. You have to adjust that sale to what the market conditions are now. Did I answer your question?
I don't like it, but yes.
It's a very complicated process, unfortunately. All right, well, that was I think, a very healthy discussion that we had. And we will move on to item 15, recognize Ms. Terry for, or item 14 rather, for the TLO report.
More clear. I wanted him to be on that one. I will show you some things that'll make it a lot more clear for you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess it's still good morning. I'd like to just report that the trend, obviously, at this point in time in the year, is that the number of hearings have started to diminish. Tangential to that is all of the easy stuff has been done, and most of the stuff that I'm getting right now are issues that have a higher level of complexity, some of which we've heard this morning. I'm sensitive to all of the things that you are talking about. With that, I'd like to just report that in my report to you this month, there were numerous accounts that I'm still working on because of the complexities involved, and I will report to those remaining accounts to you at my next report to you in December. Also, my office has been very heavily involved in the work of Ms. Bluford Daniels' committee for the selection of the 2026 Appraisal Review Board, and we have been assisting them in every way that we've been needed. So that has been an involvement of my team over the past month.
And very well, thank you.
Thank you. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you would have.
Right. Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you.
Moving to item 15, and I'll recognize the Secretary of the Appraisal Review Board for the ARB report.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair, board members. My name is Kevin Stone. I'm the ARB Secretary. During the month of October 2025, the ARB conducted a total of 13,580 formal hearings, with 498 panels working 19 days. The monthly formal hearing totals through October 31st, 2025 are as follows. 18,069 commercial hearings, 58,042 residential hearings, 2,495 other hearings, which include the industrial, personal property, and undivided interest. The 2025 year-to-date totals is 105,606 hearings, and prior year hearings is 3,578. The hearings were conducted by 81% agents and 19% owners. ARB continues to strive for completion of the formal hearings for the 2025 hearing season. And member attendance. The number of required ARB members is below the count of 190 as of October 31st, 2025. We had a total of 148 ARB members. Executive office, we continue to address requests for set-aside dismissals, requests to reschedule hearing dates due to scheduling conflicts. And then our legal counsel continues to review all written complaints that come to our the ARB for any reason. The ARB attorney, Mr. Hilscher, also assists us with our monthly legal reviews that are submitted by the ARB panel members for review. And that concludes my report, and I'll answer any questions if there are any.
Any questions for the ARB? Well, if not, we very much appreciate y'all's service.
Thank you.
The board will now enter into executive session. The executive session is held for purposes authorized by sections 551-071, 072, 074, and 076 of the Texas Government Code. We retire now to executive session. The time is 11:32 a.m. 7:47 a.m. We've returned from executive session. No action was taken in executive session, and we have a quorum present. And we're going to double back to item 16, which is discussion between members of the board and the chief appraiser regarding matters covered by section 6.15. And I'll recognize Ms. Daniels, who has a question for the chief appraiser.
You have a question? No, I think it's me.
I think that was,
It's me.
Okay.
Well, I wanted to bring up something that, for the board to consider. I brought it up in the finance committee meeting, for us to consider, I'm good?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I do have a question after you.
Oh, you do?
She
Okay.
had told me yesterday she had a question.
Oh, okay. I'm like, okay, sorry about that. I was just thinking that, and I don't know if this is something that's been done, but to potentially consider an external audit that's brought on by the board since we're changing leadership, like just on operations and just to have a baseline. I know in Finance Committee, Mrs. Noriega did bring up that sometimes you have unintended consequences when you have an audit. It's not for, in my opinion, it's not for it to be something set in stone that guiding every decision, but basically to have a baseline of where things are, what we need to consider as a board. Just wanted to throw it out there. We don't have to do it. I just thought it was something that we should consider at,
Well, let me
by the end of the
comment.
year or January or somewhere
Let
around
me
there.
comment on that.
Yes.
If we did it, it would probably be most appropriate to use the IAAO, which will come in and do, there are people that understand the profession, and they will come in and do those studies. In fact, when I was chief appraiser, I participated in several major reviews that they did in other entities across the country. The one time that HCAD had a professional review, it was done by a national accounting firm, whose name I will not mention. This was done in 1985. In fact, it was that audit that the reason I was sent down here by the governor to assist HCAD, because the plan was this audit recommended that HCAD be privatized. And it cited all kind of things, startling conclusions like we only needed 2 people to handle all public contact. It turned out that this thing was what I would consider a corrupt combination of 4 local businesses, a former appraisal firm, a prominent local official was going to be named the president of this corporation. The company that they had hired to do the audit was going to be a part owner, a 1/4 owner of the thing. It was simply a horrible thing. And this finally went down to a vote. Their recommendation was to privatize and turn, HCAD was going to have 3 employees, the chief appraiser, me, and the chief appraiser secretary. Everybody else was going to work for the private corporation. A former superintendent of HISD was going to be the president of the corporation. He was the superintendent at that point in time. And he assumed that HISD's board member would vote for the privatization. Their board member didn't. And when it came down to a vote, the vote was 3-2, 3 not to privatize, 2 to privatize. And it gave rise to an interesting conversation between the chairman of the board of directors and that HISD director. The chairperson stated to the director, since he had voted no, that you just don't know anything. He said, well, at least I know how to count to 3. So that's our history with a review by a private firm. And a private firm is not going to know anything about what we do. But IAAO would. They do these all the time. I think they have been very helpful to the jurisdictions that employ them, and I would recommend that we use them to do it.
So you do think it's a good idea? I don't know. I just feel like sometimes when there's a changing of the guard and different things like that, it's an opportunity to kind of look at systems across the board. So it doesn't matter to me about who does it. I just am wondering
I think
the
we've
flavor
learned
of the
some
board.
things about ourselves.
Right. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
We've identified issues just in this meeting today where we could focus to try to improve how we serve the public. My experience, which I would tell you is actually pretty extensive with this kind of thing, is that they really can be very disruptive. And they're expensive. And so I would want to know what it cost and what our clear goals were, what we were trying to accomplish. But I would also suggest that we look at some of the kinds of issues that come up in terms of interfacing with the public and the things that we discuss that we have concerns about, and not just set them loose on the organization. I think there are many things that are done well here, but I think we have some public perception problems, and I think we need to figure out how to improve the gears between the folks outside of this room and the folks that work in this building. So if we can do those things, I would be much more comfortable with it. But I also want a clear reason and an outcome, and not just, okay, have we done this recently? Do we know where we are? I might even suggest that we wanted to give a new chief appraiser a little while to get themselves together before we actually tackled something like this. So I might suggest putting it off for just a little while, with the idea that we need a little runway here. So I'm not telling you I'm opposed. I'm telling you that I'd like the juice to be worth the squeeze. That's all.
Well, that's a good suggestion. Interestingly to me, from conversations that I've had over the years with people, one of the most strongly held public perceptions is that the school superintendents and the mayor and the county judge and all these people that run the taxing units call up the chief appraiser every year and say, hey, we need you to raise values because we need more money this year. In fact, I saw a thing on YouTube recently. This guy's up in North Texas, and he made the absolute statement that there's a criminal conspiracy between chief appraisers and the state controller and the people that issue bonds and the taxing unit heads, that everybody knows, and we can prove that this is the way it works, that the CEO of the taxing unit calls the chief appraiser and orders a reappraisal. I ran this place for 28 years. I never had one instance, except one that involved a school district, a superintendent without authority of the school board called up and demanded that I raise residential values. When the school board, and there was nothing wrong with our residential values, when the school board found out what he had done without authority, they actually fired the guy. They dismissed him because there was nothing wrong with the values. The media just crucified HISD because of that, of the superintendent making that request. But it is a widely held perception, even though it doesn't happen, we get these calls, hey, we got to have more money, you got to reappraise. And I don't know how you overcome that.
When I was on city council, there's an amount per house that we would think about that allowed us to provide the services that people need, whether it's an ambulance and somebody that comes if you're having a stroke or a heart attack, somebody to fight a fire in your house, school crossing guards, whatever. And I'm not going to quote that amount because it's been a while since I've been on council and it's changed. So there's, nothing's free. And I think connecting what we do with the services that are provided by school districts or by mud districts or by cities or counties, I think is important, because what those values pay for isn't a business. It's the things we turn around and give back to the community. And I think that that's important to not lose sight of as well.
Well, one line we used to use years ago that I used when I did a lot of public presentations was that at the bottom, I talked about, all these different services that the property tax pays for, but I had a line I used a lot and it seemed to resonate with people that the property tax is the price you pay to live in a civilized society.
So on discussion item 16 and going back, I just want to reiterate and endorse Director Noriega's position on bringing in an outside firm to evaluate us. One, I think it's premature. Let's see what Adam gets done. But I also want to emphasize, unless we have a clear mandate on what it is we want to understand and the action steps that will be taken after that, I think it's just an academic exercise. But I think if we can come up with a list of things we want to know and the action steps that need to be taken, well, then we've done our job as a board, so let's just give him that. Right. And then make sure that he's clear on our expectations and those metrics. And it's almost a redundant exercise to then bring in somebody from the outside.
Okay. Certainly.
No, it's fine. I do, I don't know if this is on, but I do appreciate the idea of it. I think that it's something, what I learned even at the meeting that we were at was that Beata was saying that we actually do some external auditing of, like, for instance, our IT department. I know we do some with our lawsuit. When it comes to lawsuits, I know that we have an auditing firm that does some auditing. We also go through the methods assistance. The MAP review, methods and assistance and procedures review that the comptroller does every 2 years. We also do the property value study. So there's a lot of auditing that we do already. If you'd like, what I could do is maybe in January or February, come talk about that. And then that way you would have an idea of if you wanted to focus it, you can see kind of what we already do and then be able to fill in the gaps wherever you'd like. Right. So.
Well, we also do one even of lawsuits, I believe, too.
Exactly.
An
yes,
audit that's done annually.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
well, and that's good to know because I don't know if I knew that we did so many things. And of course, you're right. Beata did bring up some things in the Finance Committee meeting regarding IT. And I was like, oh, okay, we are doing something. So, yeah, that would be great. And it doesn't have to be January, February. I'm just saying,
right.
Maybe 6 months in or something like that.
I also want the chance to really impress you guys with all these great ideas. So give me a little runway, like you were saying, but
Yes.
but we're open to coming and presenting that because it's information that would be great for y'all to know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But just if at some point we decide to do it, IAAO would probably be the appropriate entity to do it because they understand. Yes, ma'am.
I just had a question. So you said that there are already a lot of I apologize, audits that you're already doing on an ongoing basis. Are the results of those provided to the board in some form?
Yes.
They are, yes. The MAP review, the property value study that the comptroller does every other year, that is provided. Yeah.
Yes, and those are also provided to the presiding officers of all the taxing units, too.
And they're extensive. I mean, they're extensive reviews that we put a lot of work into. So I think it'd be great for y'all to know more about what that entails.
And you might mention the the recertification of the CEAA, which is the high honor that you can get from IAAO, and we'll be in our second renew.
Yeah, and
It's
I
a
don't want to be
5-year
blinded with science. I want somebody to say, okay, here are 8 audits, and these are the patterns that we see, and this is what we're going to do differently. I want that kind of sense of things, particularly as we face the public. Right. But when we get them in pieces, sometimes we don't know what any of it means.
That's true.
So I don't think it would be a bad idea for everybody to look at it as a comprehensive whole. And what does that mean for the whole organization all the time? I bet there are patterns that come forward and we'd be able to do something with.
Great. All right. I'll recognize Director Daniels, who has a question also.
And thank you, Adam, because one of the things, you probably can stay up there for a few minutes. This has been really healthy conversations today. So it probably shows or indicates that perhaps we should look at doing a board retreat so that we can address some of the concerns that we have. I don't know what that would look like, Tammy. I know you'll let us know, so I appreciate that. But I think it would be important to do that, have a board retreat with the directors. But one thing, too, that I wanted to say, and thank you, Mr. Chair, was a segue into this particular issue because of your experience. One thing I want to ask, and the chair for the committee for the hiring of the chief appraiser, is that is there a plan, a succession plan already provided? And if there is, does the board, I have not seen it, so I'd like to have access to it. And then also, and I'm asking these questions because we need to be prepared for the changing of the guard.
Absolutely.
And to have it go as smoothly as possible. We've got our chair who's got 28 years experience, more than I am old. Okay, so maybe it's more than that, times two. That will be available to assist as well. But what we need to look at is perhaps the first of the year having a date set that we're having. I'd love to see it in December, but if not, then January. The succession plan, if those boxes are checked by you, and if you have questions about something that you may feel that's important that you need to have that's not on the succession plan in order to be able to be successful and have that smooth transition. So,
Yeah. One thing that I'm working on that was at the suggestion of Director Sullivan and Director Robinson was a checklist, an in-depth checklist of everything for the transition. So I think Chairman Robinson had asked me to come present on that in December.
Okay.
And so that'll help fill in some of those gaps. There's a lot to it. There's a lot of internal things that need to be done. And I've got a great group of staff that have helped already go and compile that, and we're working on getting those checked. So I'm happy to present that in December.
and then, you still have Jason, so the
we got it.
brains who've been around for forever. So tap into that and know sometimes you don't know what you need until you need it. Right. But tap into those avenues. I know Director Walker, she's been here since 1909. Well, maybe not that long. But tap into those resources so you can be prepared for that change as we move forward. And Ms. T, of course, she built the Alamo. Where's Ms. T? Ms. T. She said, no, she didn't. But anyway, we need to get Ms. T involved and engaged with that as well.
Yeah.
Director McCutcheon.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you for all your hard work. And the year is coming to a close, and the transition is upon us, really, right after Christmas. I know that Roland has also said that he's going to stick around and kind of help us out a little bit. Don't you disappear on us. So if we need it. And I think Chairman Daniels has already hit everything that I had on my. I would just need to know what other things that we as a board that we could do for you that you need from us. Yeah. And we'll need to schedule, and we also want to schedule a time in perhaps sometime in December to have another board meeting for our evaluation committee meeting.
Right.
So sometime in December. So I'll reach out to you about a time and a date that'll work for us in December. I know Christmas is here, and I know everybody will be involved in that aspect of life. Right. And so we'll schedule a time, and we'll try to do that as soon, probably earlier December would be best.
That'd be great. I mean, the more guidance, and these meetings have been fantastic because they're giving me a lot of good insight on what you expect of us going forward. And like I had mentioned to you, I think prior to the meeting was anything that you guys have from the evaluation committee that would help me just even more hone in on exactly what you're looking for from me, greatly appreciated. So, sure. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm done.
Okay. Any other discussions under this item? If not, we'll move to item 18, and I'll recognize Committee Chair Daniels for a motion on the Appraisal Review Board.
Is this you? Is it time for me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Mr. Chair, I recommend that the board, do I have those notes, Tammy, already written out? I probably do, the script, and I just hadn't looked at it yet.
Page 16.
What page?
16.
Thank you. See how important she is. I know y'all ready for lunch, and we've been in a long meeting, so we see you. The committee recommended 19 appointees for a 2-year term and 5 appointees for a 1-year term, as listed in the resolution. And this would bring the total to 32, but as discussed in closed sessions, we're going to remove one of the individuals from the list. So instead of having 32, the appointees will be 31. Did I say that correctly, Ms. Tammy? So what we recommended, the 5 appointees for 1 year, it will be 4 appointees for the 1-year duration. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Do we have a second? All right, we have a second by, so that brings us, any further discussion? All right, if not, let's just do a voice vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. All right, have item 19, which is a discussion item that was, probably we should have done earlier, but it was listed here as item 19 on the search parameters for HCAD's website, but that was the issue that Mike had wanted, that we were going to, because of security concerns, we were going to talk about it in executive session, and then if there was to be a change in policy, come out and vote now. And so since we didn't discuss it in executive session, we will just
Defer it to
skip
next
that
month.
item. And we'll move to item 20, which is consider and approve settlement of pending litigation, pending appeals to the State Office of Administrative Hearings, and pending arbitrations. Do we have a motion? All right, we have a motion, second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, we'll do a voice vote again. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, I have to abstain on
Item
this.
21, Roland, are there any,
We have one abstention.
do we have an abstention? Okay,
Yes, sir.
all right, one abstention. All right, we move to item 21. Do we have any appeals under section 4202?
No, Mr. Chairman, not this month.
All right, that brings us to item 22, and we are adjourned.